back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Windowworks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Sarah Santacroce joins me today. Sarah is an internationally recognized LinkedIn specialist, and she helps convert your online presence into paying clients. She's also the creative brain behind the LinkedIn Challenge, which was an event and is an event that has helped more than 1,900 people so far improve their knowledge about LinkedIn for business. Sarah lives in Switzerland, and she's helped hundreds of clients from all over the world breathe life into their LinkedIn profiles by putting together a strategy for their online presence. When I was reading Sarah's website, there was a couple of things that stood out in her copy that I really liked, and I wanted to share it with you. One line says, "My clients like to work with me because I'm structured, focused, results-orientated. I'm the real thing." Another line is, "I'm known for my simple, no-nonsense Swiss efficiency mixed with a good dose of Californian yes we can attitude." And a couple other things that she goes on to say on her website. The subtitle here is, "These are a few things that I'm good at. My ability to focus on the essentials and come up with the strategy for you to achieve your goals. My experience, based on many failures, of getting clients online and what it takes to grow your business. My skill to quickly develop and put myself into your client's shoes and to create an offer that he or she can't resist. My empathy and passion and encouragement to use your uniqueness to grow your business. Oh, and I'm an introvert." So, seriously, how is this for attracting your ideal client? She tells you exactly what she wants you to know about her. And if you read it and you smile, then you know you're the type of person that wants to work with her. So I just share that with you, and I would encourage you to go to her website yourself to take a look at it, because we're always talking about how to set yourself apart. And I think I know when I meet you live, I'm often saying to you, it's not this big grandiose thing. It's just get quiet with yourself and ask yourself, what are you really is your superpower? What is your strength? So she's calling out her ability to focus, her experience based on many failures, her skill that she's able to put herself in your client's shoes, and her empathy and passion. I mean, these are not big, huge things, right? But she relates them to how it helps you working with her, creating an online presence. So you get what I'm saying. I just thought it was powerful. Okay. Now, today, though, we're not talking about the copy on her website. We're talking about LinkedIn. And I have to say, Sarah opened my eyes to the untapped potential of LinkedIn. I have really been quite literally very happy to ignore LinkedIn because I just didn't want one more thing on my plate. I mean, I'm just now realizing, I shouldn't say just now. I've long realized how important Pinterest is, and we're really just now getting ramped up on it. And to think that, I've got to pay attention to LinkedIn too, I really was like, not wanting to be convinced. But unfortunately, Sarah does convince me. I'm wondering if she'll convince you. And I'll say she convinced me enough that after doing the interview a couple of weeks ago, two things happened. I called my assistant, Christy, and I said, do you have any bandwidth to add LinkedIn to your whole trick of trades things to do there in a day and a week? And we had a whole conversation about how we can make time for it. And I also had a conversation, coincidentally, that same day with Malky Berger. So hi, Malky, how are you? And we were talking, and she said, one of the biggest things I'm facing right now is getting more clients. And she's so lucky because she's got 2 really big clients in her pipeline right now that she's working on, long-term big projects that'll take several months. And she said, and I've got a good amount of medium-sized projects that I'm working on in between these big ones. But looking ahead to next year, when these bigger ones complete, I know I need to work on it now. And I went all into this whole LinkedIn thing that I learned from Sarah. And the thing about it is it is a long tail process, cultivating relationships, whether it's in real life or it's on LinkedIn. And so I thought it was a great idea for Malky to get started on this initiative now, so that possibly, towards the spring of next year, she'll have some good prospects, okay? So I'm interested to know, after you listen to the episode, what you think about it. So, and if you would, easiest way to communicate is to comment on the Instagram post for the episode or the Facebook post for the episode, okay? Now, before we get to the show, shout out to My Doma Studio. Have you tried My Doma Studio yet? And I have to say, I was recently at an event and someone actually came up and asked me, I wonder if there's a software platform that you'd recommend to run my design firm. I was like, yes, there is. And it's My Doma Studio. Okay. So that My Doma Studio has everything you could want for client management, for vendor management, for time tracking, for creating design packages, for creating mood boards. But guess what? I have a major announcement for you. You have been asking the My Doma Studio team for a particular feature, and they have delivered. As of this week, if you are a QuickBooks Online customer, you can export paid invoices from My Doma Studio directly to your QuickBooks Online account. Yay, cheering from the crowd, right? Seriously, I have to say, I have had, if I had a nickel for every person who said to me, I just want to tell you, I really do love My Doma Studio, but it doesn't integrate with QuickBooks. And so I'm like, well, whatever, when I'm going to tell you, right? Now I'm going to tell you that's not a problem anymore, okay? So please head over to mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business, okay? And the other thing I want to say is, if you're listening in real time, Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 at 1 p.m. Please join us for an exclusive My Doma Studio webinar on sales strategies for interior designers, okay? The roles are going to be a little reversed here, and I will be in the hot seat taking questions about all of the strategies and tips that I've got in my little arsenal. So come prepared with your questions. You can ask me questions about your business, about tricky conversations with your clients, about how to sell more to the same clients. I don't care, anything you want, really. You really can. You know me. I love hanging out with you and meeting you and learning about your businesses. So please come hang out with me June 25th at 1 p.m. And it's an exclusive webinar, My Doma Studio webinar. Sarah Daniele will be asking me the questions and handling the questions from you, okay? So to join us, go to webinar.mydomastudio.com/Luann. Okay? webinar.mydomastudio.com/Luann. Alrighty, I'm looking forward to introducing you to Sarah Santacroce. Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Luann.
Sarah, you have a specialty in LinkedIn, and I am excited to talk about this because, I have to say, LinkedIn for me is not nearly the stepchild that Twitter is for me, but it's like right there. I actually had, first of all, I rarely go in. And
yeah, it took you 3 months, remember?
Oh my God, it was you. Oh my God, that's so funny, because I was about to tell this story how somebody was like, you say on the show that you hardly go to LinkedIn, and yes, it was 3 months until you answered. That's hysterical. I'm going to tell you the story about you. Yeah. But it's so true. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Let's go look there. You know what I mean? It's so funny. Yeah. And I think it's because I'm not going to say I don't get it. That's absurd. I got a brain in my head. I get it, right? But it just feels more and complicated isn't quite the word. I guess it's just I don't have a comfort level there. I just haven't spent time there. And so therefore it's not my place where I go. And so that's why, but I know that it is a viable platform for us as business owners to make connections with other business owners. So, and especially me as a podcaster, forget all my interior designers out there that might make connections with people who have a project coming up, like me from business person, like looking for Power Talk Friday experts. You'd think I'd be trolling LinkedIn like a demon, right?
Right. Yeah, but you're not the only one, Luann. It's kind of the overlooked social platform, and people always go, why the heck would you specialize in the most boring platform? and things have changed on LinkedIn quite a bit, but that was like 10 years ago when I did decide to specialize on LinkedIn. And we talked offline about me being an introvert, and I think it definitely has to do with the introversion, because LinkedIn is actually, I realized that later, is actually a really good platform for introverts. And let me tell you why. Because on LinkedIn, compared to Facebook, we don't have to constantly share about our personal life, right? We're keeping things very separate, and we're just focusing on positioning ourselves as leaders, experts in our field. And we're not doing that in a salesy way, but we're just sharing content which feels comfortable to us. We're sharing pictures about what we had at dinner last night and where we're going on vacation and all these social things that you're supposed to be doing on Facebook or Instagram. That's not in our comfort zone. So that's the reason why there's quite a bit of introverts on LinkedIn, actually.
I love that observation, Sarah, because it's so true. How many times people have told us, Facebook experts that have been on the show, they always say, oh, show your personality, be who you are, let them in. And to your point on LinkedIn, that is like, what are you doing? You would not do that. And if you do, you would be looked at like, I'm sorry, this is where we're business people, right?
Exactly. There is that a little bit, but definitely not with pictures and not about vacations. But yes, we're also trying to do storytelling and using examples and things like that. But yeah, it's always kind of from this professional point of view, and not like, here's me in the hospital bed, or, something like that. So, yeah.
No, I hear what your point in there you're making is that you still need to be your genuine you, and show your personality. I hear you, right? But it's just not every little, toenail stub that happened in your life comes out, right?
Exactly. And it has changed a lot since the millennials came in. So that happened about two years ago. All of a sudden, the millennials started showing up, and they're like, all right, you bunch of old folks, we're going to change this platform and really break the rules and, make it more human. And so they started, like, the old LinkedIn folks are like, oh, the millennials are just using it like Facebook. But I actually think that it was nice to get that kind of fresh air into the platform, because they are really showing up as human beings. And so they're using video much more, and they're, really engaging as people, where before it was a bit, sterile and people were kind of wearing this mask. Oh, I have to wear my professional mask. And so with the millennials, that has changed quite a bit, and I like it.
So the millennials but they're still keeping that line there, but they're doing a good job of personalizing it, but they're not Facebookizing it, right? They're still keeping that sort of, that's what you're saying? Are you describing that?
Yeah, well, okay. There's some that definitely are Facebookizing it, but
would you like that new word I just made up?
Yeah, I love that. I'm just gonna go with that. So yeah, some of them are definitely doing that a bit too much, but then they have their own audience that likes that, and I think it's important on every platform that we are aware of different generations. Like millennials they act differently on social media than the X generation. So I think it's important to respect that.
Now, tell me, I hear you saying that once you got involved in it, you realized that, or was it the other? Was it that you understood 10 years ago that it was an easier platform as a personality who is an introvert, or did you discover that as you were using it, that, oh, this fits me better? Which was chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I think I realized I liked the platform, but I didn't know why. So it was later that I realized, oh, it's because I'm an introvert that this suits me better than Facebook.
Okay, interesting. I like it. Okay, so I have to say, so many designers, so many of the listeners, Sarah, have expressed to me when I've met them in person and also through communication over social media that they are introverted. And it was a big surprise to me as I started really developing nice, meaningful relationships with so many of my listeners through the social media platforms and through the live engagements that we do together, to learn that. I just was like, oh, that's so crazy, because, of course, for me, I always think of interior design as a sales business, right? That's why, like, you got to go in and you got to pitch and you got to close a deal and you got to be boots on the ground. You're so intensely in somebody's home, in somebody's office, in their environment for so long. And being an extrovert, and I don't know, some would call me an extreme extrovert, I'm not sure. But being an extrovert, I only visualized it through my filter. Oh, you know what? You got to get up every day and sell yourself, and so therefore you must be an extrovert. But I've learned that it is very true that so many of my friends that are designers are introverted, and I've also learned how through design it's not the filter that I saw it through. It's not selling to 20, it's selling to 1, and it is more like me at Windowworks. I might have 100 clients this month, so that's 100 times I'm going to go, hi, I'm Luann from Windowworks. Hi, I'm Luann from Windowworks, and create a new relationship that many times. Whereas I've learned with interior designers, they might have 10 clients a year, or even a month, depending on their business model. So they could have 10 a year, 3 a year, or 10 a month. And so therefore, I see it now, how it's not that, like I am, just knock on a door, hello, knock on a door, hello, right? So it suits them, I think is what I'm saying.
Yes. So yeah, it's funny because when I, did my homework about your podcast, I was like, okay, this is a creative job,
yes,
which is really a good fit for an introvert. And I never went to the sales. Oh, yeah. And by the way, you have to sell. But for you, it's like, oh, this is a sales job. And yeah, you have to be a bit creative. So
right.
So yeah.
Well, I know that if we don't make a sale, we don't get to be creative. It's as simple as that. The first comes the sale, next comes the pretty.
Right.
So, okay. So what are some of the strategies that you suggest for actually utilizing LinkedIn in general, okay, as a platform, but then to further help the introverts that are listening be successful in it? So I think there's like two layers. First, there's general good practices, so forth, right, Sarah? And then there's probably tips, since you specialize in helping as a business coach, helping introverts succeed in their online presence. I would think that there's extra info in there. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So in terms of getting clients on LinkedIn or positioning yourself as an expert on LinkedIn, for me, there's 3 important steps. The first step is the profile. So that's another difference between Facebook, for example, and LinkedIn. On Facebook, yeah, you have your personal profile, but there's hardly any information on there, and nobody ever goes to your profile page. Where on LinkedIn, you can have a really complete LinkedIn profile. I often refer to it as a mini website. And why is that great for introverts? Because it does all the selling. So we use the profile as our sales team, basically, because we have all the information right there. So I don't have to go and say, hi, I'm an interior designer, I do this and that. It's already there. They see it on my profile. So the profile really should read like a mini website. So as an interior designer, I would expect some, great visuals because you're in a very visual job. So really make it look like a mini website and then explain what it is you can do, who you work with, because every designer has a different, I assume there's different types of clients. There's the architects, there's the individual client. So really make me understand when I come to your LinkedIn profile, who are you working with and what are you specializing in? So that needs to be on the profile. So that's the first step. Then the second step is once you have your profile, you need to actually be visible in your network. So it's a lot of people still use LinkedIn as this Rolodex of contacts and they just add contacts, but then these contacts never see or hear them again. So the power of LinkedIn is actually being in front of your contacts because you have them now in your network. You're publishing content. They see what you do. So here's where the sharing part would come in, but not sharing about what you do in your personal life, but what you do in your professional life. And so that would be visual content of your designs. That would be tips probably. So everything that is helpful for a potential future client, that would be content that you could share. So that's the second step. And then the third step is continuously adding new contacts to your network so that they're actually exposed then to the second step, the content. And you do that by, depending on who exactly you're working with. If you're just working with, individuals, so you do like interior design in homes, then maybe it would be a good idea to start with a specific niche, like, who are these people? Because on LinkedIn, everything is organized by job titles, right? And so if you just go, well, I could work with everybody, well, that's going to be hard to build a network of everybody's.
Right.
And so it makes sense to say, for example, I did some research and I found this interior designer who is specializing in realty agents. So in her title, she says, independent artist / designer. I help realty agents fast tracking their property listing with simple interior design tips. So she has decided to work with realty agents and it makes it really clear on her profile that this is her ideal client. And so it would be really good to figure out, well, who are you working with? Are you working with architects or are you working with realtors? Or if it's just the individuals, well, start with something, start with probably, I don't know, people who can afford you. So maybe directors, right? Look at the director level and start building that network in your location, because most, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the design business is probably local business.
Yes, I would say there are designers that particularly specialize in e-design. Okay, so there's no question we have Albie and Cheney and our colleagues like that specialize in that. However, to your point, probably by and large, most designers are making the bulk of their income from projects that they can drive to, you know what I'm saying? And
right,
Right. So and I like that little tip in there. In other words, if you are positioning yourself as a luxury designer, and if you are a luxury designer, then you know what? Yes, go make contacts with CEOs and senior VPs and stuff like that. But if that's not your swimming pool, that CEO, senior VP, or EVP, executive vice president group of people probably aren't your client, right? So, that's just interesting. And you're talking about build your network based on who you're trying to attract. And of course, I love the idea of this designer that is really just calling out realtors. This is who I work with. If you're a realtor, and how many billion realtors must be on LinkedIn? So I know what happens is people probably think, my goodness, how could I just say that? Because then anybody that comes there will think if they're not a realtor, they can't call me. And of course, we know that's not true, right? If they're attracted to you and they like what they see, they're going to say, people are pushy. They're going to say, I see you specialize in realtors, but will you do my house? Yes, I'll do your house, right? Or no, if you don't want to, right? But the point is, to your point, there's probably enough realtors on LinkedIn that even if there was just 1,000 of them, or let's do this. How about in your own area? Forget 1,000. How about if there were 50? Think about if there were 50 realtors in a 30-mile radius of your studio. Is that not worth talking to them? Think about that. That is so worth talking to them, right, Sarah?
Exactly. And it's just a LinkedIn profile where you have this clear niche. You can still go network and, talk to everybody. But like you said,
in your other profile, your plan, right?
Yeah, you're not going to refuse business. And again, you can also on the LinkedIn profile, you have different experience sections where you can say, for example, I'm a designer for realtors. But then underneath, you can add another experience section where you say, I also do house remodeling, or, so you're not locked in to only talk to realtors, but that's what gets you the attention. And that's where, the sale is much easier because they're like, oh, this person really gets me. They have worked with other people like me.
Right. I love it. And so let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying in there too is if we specifically put on our LinkedIn profile and lead with this specializing in working with realtors, it's okay if when they come, hear what you're saying, to put the other experience in that section below, but are you saying it's okay if we click through to the website and the website might talk about the experience with realtors, but the website doesn't lead with it there? Is there a disconnect if I get to the website, or is it just like, oh, I'm just putting that particular expertise out front on LinkedIn? And of course, we're making an assumption that someone does both, right? Or do I need to, if I'm leading with it there and that realtor clicks to my website, do I need to make it lead there too, or that's just being overthinking things?
I think it would definitely help if there's a specific landing page for realtors on your site, right? But you don't have to make the whole
homepage
about it.
Right? Yeah. I love that. See, I always forget those little technical things like landing pages, right? I love that. So what happens is now on my LinkedIn profile, whatever I'm leading with my specialty, I have created now a special landing page that talks in more detail about my expertise and maybe testimonials from other realtors. Exactly. Yada, yada. But then if they click on my homepage, it's my regular interior design information. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, we have many designers that specialize in, or I shouldn't even say specialize, because we're not saying that you only have to do this. I've never had this idea cross my path in all these years now. I love this. That's why I'm like, yeah, okay. So the thing is that, there's designers that have a special expertise in helping builders select finishes for their spec homes. So it could be interior designer, and I love to help builders, get their spec homes, next level up, or create, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever specialty it is, whether you work with an architect or, it's just good to have that clear expertise that will help people when they come to your profile go, I need to talk to this person.
This is so, are you guys hearing how amazing this is? I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this, because it could be anything. It could be, I like doing, restaurant design. I like doing small scale commercial, whatever it is. Now I'm almost thinking, geez, it would be nice to have 10 LinkedIn profiles. No, that's cheating. I know. Like, how can we game it?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't recommend that, because you might be locked down, but you can definitely, like I said before, have the different experience sections underneath. And there you can still say that you're also doing this and you're also doing this. And so it's not, you're not being
dishonest or anything.
Yeah,
Right. You're just,
dishonest.
you're now thinking of gaming it. Okay. Is it the type of thing, is this legit where, okay, here I am, the interior designer that leads and speaks to realtors at the top. And then underneath, like to your example, other work experience, complete expert in, walking you through a remodel, renovation, yada, yada. Is it like cheating to, at that point, have a website link to a landing page that talks about remodeling? So if you have different expertises, would you have different pages on your own website and each URL in each section? Or I don't even remember if there's an opportunity to put a website in multiple places.
Yeah. So in the contact info, you can have 3 different links to different web pages, but you can also just include the URL of your different landing page in the experience section.
That's what I'm asking. Can I do that?
Yeah.
So if I'm talking about renovation in that experience section, I'm going to have a URL to a different page, not the realtor page.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's totally fine. I don't think it's cheating at all, because your expertise is design,
right? And
then you're just addressing different audiences. You're not addressing different expertises. You're just saying, I can help this person and this person and this person. Obviously, you're not going to do 10.
Right.
You have to actually back it up with, real testimonials and have had this experience. But no, I think that's totally fine.
I love it because, like, now, guys, what I'm thinking is, like, let's use Windowworks as an example. At Windowworks, we do custom window treatments and awnings. We do it for retail consumers, and we do it for the trade. So legitimately, the Windowworks profile could, at the main page or whatever, just, go to our homepage. Okay. But then I could say, the expertise in awnings, and then that link goes out to our awning page, our expertise in working to the trade. And that goes out to our trade page. And then the expertise in interior window treatments goes out to that page, right? That's what we're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so genius. Instead of just putting the same darn URL every single place, or not even having it in multiple places.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
So brilliant.
And again, I want to highlight this idea of really building a very targeted network. What I get the most is people say, well, I've never really gotten anything out of LinkedIn. And then we look at the actual network, and a lot of times the network they have is from some kind of previous life. So let's say they were in a corporate job, they did, I don't know, accounting or something, and then only later they trained as a designer. But their LinkedIn network is just full of these corporate contacts that are not really that relevant anymore. And so that's the biggest mistake I see people do, is not building a relevant network. So that's where this niche idea comes in. It's like, well, figure out who your ideal client is first, and then start adding these connections that are actually, hopefully turning into prospects or future clients.
Okay. So give me some ideas. Like, for instance, when you talk about doing that, like intentionally building a relevant network. If I'm an interior designer and I'm saying, okay, I'm not really specializing realtors or builders, I am specializing in the residential sector. And maybe my ideal client is, it could be one of the persons in the couple is the breadwinner, the other one is the stay-at-home parent, and there's 2 kids, and it's a busy family, because I understand how I'm going to find the 2-career couple. I understand how I'm going to do that. But what happens if that's my niche? My niche is growing family, for lack of a better way to describe it. What are we looking for on LinkedIn to find that?
Yeah. Again, it would be related to job titles, because nobody's going to say, double income on their LinkedIn profile. So it'd be going after directors or CFOs, CEOs. And that's why it helps if you say, I'm going to start with people in finance, for example.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And so then you just start looking, for example, on LinkedIn, you can look up groups. And so that's a good place to start. You join a group, and then you look into the members and see, oh, okay, these are all the CXOs. I'm going to connect with them and say, hey, I came across your profile in this group. Are you open to connect? And you're not going in with a pitch or saying, hey, do you need a new remodeling of your home? So you're just, saying, are you open to connect? And then the idea is that they get exposed to your content, and that's where the conversations can start.
Okay. So I love that, what you said there, if you were going to say start with people in finance, because one of the things that we often overlook until something like this is just said, where you just said something so obvious. It's like, oh yeah, light bulb moment. So for instance, many of us come to design as a second career. So if I was in, like, I'm thinking of Rachel Moriarty, she was in banking and she did high net worth individuals and did banking for them. So she speaks their language, right? Exactly. So that's like, she's not necessarily, for her, it would make sense to connect with finance people, because once she puts her content in front of them and their dialogue starts, she understands their mindset, and so she can make a connection easier. So if you were a graphic designer in a previous life, or maybe you have always been an interior designer, but maybe your partner is in a particular field and you've had 9 gabillion dinners with people in that field and you can talk that language, or your parents were a particular thing. So the idea is that to think of ourselves as the multi-layer people that we are, and our broad experience, and what, like Erica Ward's episode, she said your transferable skills. So she was, was originally, before she was an interior designer, she was a project manager for, I want to say it was for commercial buildings, commercial build, right? And so she was very comfortable in multi-million-dollar projects, staying on budget, on time, on deadline. So she speaks that language, and she transferred that to her residential interior design firm. So, but that's a great tip, is to, if you don't necessarily say to yourself, I want to attract realtors, I want to attract builders, you could look at a different layer of your personality or just your life experience to who are the people that you would know their language, right?
Yeah, so often we want to kind of start from scratch when we're starting our own business, but our past experience counts a lot, even though we might not want to go back to that. But like you said, we have skills, we have people that we know. A lot of my business comes from things that I've done in the past, and I'm sure it's the same with you. Right, so definitely use that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just start to think about it. Even if, maybe, your side hobby, pastime. So you've been a designer your entire life. You're 32 years old, but you might be a huge triathlete or something, right? So go and connect with other people that do that, because ultimately everybody has a home or has a friend with a home. So
it's quite an easy find, right? Yes. But if you think, just anybody, then it's too overwhelming and you probably will never start.
Right,
but
right.
If you find people, some common ground, that's where you need to start.
So smart. I love it, Sarah. That was a big aha moment for me. And I'm embarrassed, but I'm going to have to go look at my Windowworks and my website, my LinkedIn, to see what the heck's going on over there. Because of course it is well ignored by me. So that was 3 tips. You had one more, I think, right?
Yes. I was talking about the profile, the content, and the leads, and the lead generation. That's really what we just spoke about. So that's the strategy number 3 is finding those people, and you can take it even to a next step, and that's relationship building, because obviously we all know it takes time to get people to know, like, and trust you. We're doing that via our content that we're sharing. So any kind of helpful tips about remodeling, any pictures, that's the content that positions you as the expert. You can also take that to the private messenger on LinkedIn. So it's one, basically like on Facebook, you have the public feed, right? That's where you position yourself with your content. And then you have the messages that is private. And so on LinkedIn, you can do the same thing. You can really start building these relationships with people where you would not pitchy content. Really, again, it should be just like a casual conversation that you would have in a networking event. So the minute you connect with someone, you can get back to them and say, hey, thanks so much for for accepting me in your network, and then make a comment about something that you saw on their profile. So I noticed you do this and this, right? So it's just a casual conversation around something that you would also be talking about on during a networking event.
Okay. And the thing about it is I mean, yeah, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, except that it is one of the reasons why I don't really spend time on LinkedIn, because most of the time it is a pitchy sales thing in the comments. And most of the thing that makes me crazy, what makes me crazy, I have no problem a cold pitch. I have no problem with a cold pitch for anything. I'm a salesperson by nature. I respect that. But what I cannot stand is a cold pitch that has nothing to do with me. Like, makes me nuts. And it's so, to me, it's lazy. It's just lazy. It's like everything about me is right there. And if you don't have enough information, just put my name into Google, man, and find out more, right? But they'll, people will just pitch you on things that are, and I don't know. So I feel like it doesn't have to be said, but I guess it does have to be said.
Yeah, no, it does have to be said, because that's the sad thing about, some of my colleagues, I guess. It's because that's what's being taught. There's these courses on how to automate everything and lead generation on LinkedIn, and just send out, use this tool. There's these third-party tools where you can just send out 1,000 pitches per day.
That's why they sound like robots, because they are.
Yeah, and that's why they all sound the same, right? And you're like, hello, read my profile. I don't need whatever tool you're selling me. So don't do it that way. That's why I'm saying that the less you make it look like a template, the better, actually. And I do give away some templates, but I always tell my clients, like, make it sound like natural. Like, I give you an example, right? This guy connected with me, can't remember, business development or something like that. And so he's based in Toronto, and that's where my husband is from. So we connect. I say, thanks so much for connecting. And then I say, hey, I see that you're based in Toronto. That's where my husband is from. And that starts a conversation. And, this was a couple of weeks ago. And then every now and then I go back in and say, hey, how are you doing? What are you working on? And next thing we know, we're on a Zoom call. And it's not, there's no intention of selling. I think that's what I'm saying.
Right.
There's this term that's the social selling, right? I'm sure you've heard it before. I actually don't like this term so much that I changed it to social serving. Because I think we're not selling on any of the social platforms. What we're doing is serving our audience with valuable content. And the sales conversation happens always offline when there's already an interest expressed. But we're not going out there. People are tired of ads. We're not in the ads era anymore. People are tired of that. So what we really want is the human connection. And so that's what you're supposed to be doing on LinkedIn as well.
I love it. It's the truth, because this is what gives salespeople a bad name, is this crappy crap.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's true. You, as I always say, a sale is a win-win for both parties. And until I really know you, I don't know how I can serve, like your point, to serve you, to create a win for you. And I've got to figure that out. I can't come out the gate selling you something, because I don't know you yet. I don't know what you need. I don't know how what I have helps help solve your challenges, right?
Right.
I love it. I love it. And so what are some of the other, either things that we should, if you said to yourself, oh, and by the way, make sure you have this, this, or this on your profile, or by the way, make sure you do certain things this way, or here are 3 things you should never do, or something like that. Any other tips come to mind, Sarah?
We can talk about content a little bit.
Oh, good.
Because I think interior designers are really lucky because they have visual content, right? And so it's great to use these visuals as examples, but then not like on Instagram where it's just visual, but people on LinkedIn, they want depth. So they want you to explain why you've chosen this color for the curtains that, the picture that you posted. So they want to know more. They want to go into details. And so whenever you're posting, for example, you could post before and after pictures, right? And then do some explaining, because that's where you're positioning yourself as the expert, saying why you chose this and how, I don't know, it looks brighter or the light is better or whatever.
Right.
So really make yourself shine through your content, because that's how people will make up their own minds whether you're an expert in your field or not.
So what you're saying is, rather than post a picture of a room you completed and just say, hey, amazing project, client happy, all's good in the world, you want us to say, really loved working on this project, and by selecting this color drapery with this color paint, I was able to make the room, I don't know, stand on its head, right?
or say, the client hired me for this, and here's how I solved the problem.
Oh, love it. The client hired me for this and this. Okay, the client hired me because they couldn't fit their whole family in the family room for Friday movie night. And this is how I solved the problem. Now, 10 people can sit there and, have popcorn.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay.
So really not just bragging, because the pictures, what you just said before, oh, look at this great project. That's just bragging, and that's okay now and then. But I want to know more. I want to really find out what you're capable of doing, not just show me a picture that could have been taken out of a catalog.
Okay. I like that. I wonder you're saying that that's how people are on LinkedIn. It occurs to me that seems like a good practice for the other platforms as well. No, for whether
that's
it
true.
is, right?
Yeah. It's just that on LinkedIn, people, on Instagram, for example, people love quotes, same on Facebook, and it's very visual, where on LinkedIn, people don't mind to read more.
Oh,
so
interesting.
That's probably the difference between, what makes LinkedIn a bit different. They actually want to see more text, where on Instagram, less text, the better.
So interesting. Like, don't mind me asking you this. Like, that to be true? Like, that's like people really, it sounds like you're saying to me that when people who are regular, loyal LinkedIn users, they're coming to it almost like their newspaper. They're coming intending to read it.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. LinkedIn's number one mission is to be LinkedIn's mission is to be the number one platform for professional content. And
so the way 20 years ago,
it's not just pictures.
Right.
It's in-depth content.
So it's like the way 20 years ago it would be like, and maybe it is still, I don't know, like you got to read the Wall Street Journal, like, if you're, okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because to your point, in Instagram, we're just, a lot of times we will just sit there, scroll like. You know what I mean? Like heart. See you, bye. Right? Okay. And so that's interesting. And so I guess then it is the place to come for information. So that's a huge aha there. So don't just give me the same surface. Of course, this is an aha I'm having, but it's like, hello, knock me over the head. How many times have we been told that each platform does have a different mission, and therefore what you post in one is not really appropriate, or not appropriate, but the best maximizer for the other. Like, I always just push my Instagram posts to Twitter and Facebook. And every time I push it, I go, this isn't right. And I'm like, yeah, well, they're not going to get there to the other places if I don't do it this way.
Yeah.
There's only so much time in a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so Instagram being my number one place to connect with my listeners, that's the one that we spend the most time doing what we feel is the right for Instagram. And every time I push it to the others, I have Claire Jefford in my head, by the way, who says, you really shouldn't do that, Luann.
Yeah. So. I think it's okay for like Instagram and Facebook because they're so similar, but LinkedIn, first of all, LinkedIn's algorithm will probably never show you anything that has been published by third-party tools. They're very strict with their algorithm. And so if you want to make LinkedIn your number one platform, then you actually have to spend really time within LinkedIn. Right. It's not going to work to use any of the third-party tools to just publish out stuff.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And so the thing about it is it occurs to me that it's quite a job, just like any other platform. Yep. You really have to, if you're going to do it and care about it, then you've got to intentionally lean into it, really look over your profile, really think about how you can utilize those other parts of the profile, the experience parts. Then you really have to go back and look at your website and make sure that what you're saying there is reinforced in on your website. And I love the idea of developing the landing pages if you don't already have them. Many people already do. But then you do have to, what do you do? You're going to do different because, of course, this is also your primary, probably for your business, is what you do. So you need to be there. But for a designer, would you say we could do there once a week for an hour? Do we have to do every day for 20 minutes? Like, what are we to create a meaningful presence on LinkedIn that's going to result in ROI?
Yeah, I usually say 10 minutes per day is a good kind of indication, because if you only do 1 hour per week, people will see that you're only posting like once a week, right? Where if you can post, you don't have to post every day, but it'd be nice to do more than once per week. And then you want to just reply to connection requests and send your own. So
not let people sit there for 3 months.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, what the problem is? I'm going to be completely honest with you. You know what the problem was? 10 minutes a day. It's never 10 minutes a day. That's the problem. It's never 10 minutes a day. It's 10 minutes turns into 40. And it's so funny because Tabitha Caro, she is, her company is a smartphone marketing school or something like this. And she was on the show. She's adorable, right? I love her. And she does every day. She has all these amazing tips to, make your smartphone do crazy things. It's like a Swiss Army knife, right? Okay. And it was so funny because just this morning I got up and I was like, okay. And I had my breakfast and I was getting ready for your interview. And I was like, oh, what's happening in Instagram, Luann? You're going to be head down for the next 3 or 4 hours doing interviews. Let's see what's happening. And so I went to Instagram, but then of course I was like, well, let me check Facebook and let me do this. And then I checked both of my emails. I checked my Instagram. I checked both of my Facebooks. All of this probably took like 20 minutes to do. And then what I did was I went back to Instagram again. Like, I didn't need to. I did. Yeah. And what was so cool was as soon as I opened Instagram, there's Tabitha with a little video going, why not turning my phone off for an hour every morning increases my productivity. I'm like, you're right, turning it on. Like, that's it, stop scrolling. So it's tough. You do have to be smart about it, right? 10 minutes can turn into an hour if you're not intentional.
Yeah, I'm all for the less is more approach. And so most of the clients that I work with, they just make LinkedIn their one platform. And they're like, I'm done with Facebook. I never was on Twitter. Because my clients, they also want the bigger mandates. So these are like, mandates, and that, like you said before, it can be only like 3 clients. If you work with a big architect firm, well, maybe you only need 3 clients per year. And so all of a sudden, it becomes worth spending that time on LinkedIn and worth saying, I'm not going to be wasting time on Facebook or Instagram anymore, because this is where the money is. LinkedIn is definitely where the money is. So yeah, I get that we're all overwhelmed, and I'm all about less is more. LinkedIn is the place that works for me. And you just need to find, like, your listeners just need to find their place. Mm-hmm. I think, and say no to all the others, right?
Right. Well, what I love about the opportunity on LinkedIn is where, on one hand, Instagram is fully saturated with beautiful images. I got to believe that beautiful images are going to stand out a little bit more on LinkedIn than they do Instagram.
Yeah. True.
I mean, it's like, hello, let's plant a rose right in the middle of that parking lot over there and see if everybody sees it, right? Instead of the rose in the middle of the garden. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and so it seems a little, I almost can feel some of like, oh, I got to do something else, or I have to learn something else. But I think it depends on how full your pipeline is, and I feel like it depends on if you don't have a full pipeline. What do you got to lose to put 10 minutes that turns into 25 minutes every single day into LinkedIn and see what happens, right? But do it well. And the other thing is to your point too, even if you are working and you are consistently busy, wanting to create the relationships with higher level contacts, to your point, builders, architects, realtors. These are people that can be sources of continuous pipeline building. And see, that's what I love. I love to meet one person and create a relationship with that person that can bring me business all year long. Like, instead of meeting a new person. Sources. Yes, exactly. Yeah, right? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we always want to ignore LinkedIn. I don't know. I speak for myself. I always want to ignore LinkedIn. But it sounds valuable. And is there other things that we're missing about it, Sarah, that we should talk about before we go today? Or
I just want to also say that I really think there's a huge potential for designers, interior designers, because I was looking in my network, there's not a single one.
Wow.
Like, there, like you just said, there's not that many pictures, and in my network, I don't see any interior design, kind of stand out. So I do think that the LinkedIn is not as crowded yet as other places, and so it's a good place to stand out and take this opportunity before.
Well, we're going to tell about 5,000 of them right now. So
exactly. So I was just going to say that before it's too late and everybody jumps on it, because what's happened in the recent weeks is Gary Vee is all about LinkedIn now as well.
Oh.
And so if Gary Vee tells his audience, you got to go on LinkedIn, well, sooner rather than later, it's going to be crowded there too.
But again, a designer can stand out, to your point. And we're not saying, so for instance, if now all of a sudden, 1 or 20 interior designers hear this interview and they connect with you, Sarah. Okay. So the point is, now you've got some designers in your network. We're not saying to our designer friends out there and then start, poking everybody and asking them if they want design services. What you're saying, and I'm hearing, is just start interacting in this connection of this new pool of people and giving value and sharing tips. And all of a sudden, the however many people that are in your world, if it's coming across the feed, when and if it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, they need a designer, it's going to be like, oh, how about that designer that has been showing this great content and her progress or his progress on renovations or rebuilds or home staging? Let me go back and look what that person's name is, right? It's like a subliminal long tail thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know one guy in my network who he doesn't do design, but he sells basically property, right? Which is somehow similar, not really, but that's the one guy I can think of who posts pictures of apartments and houses, right?
Right, but how many designers have the skill for home staging and they could connect with him?
Yeah, and so I just know him, and if somebody asks me, hey, do you know somebody who can, help me sell my home, or who can help me find a place in the mountains, well, I'm going to refer to him. So
because he stands out, because he's the one person
He posts,
right?
Yeah, he posts content.
Right. As opposed to scrolling all of my contacts and finding, oh, there's actually 10 people. It's like he comes to mind because he's always showing you what he does and how he does it.
Right.
I love it. So smart. I love it. It's awesome. I'm exhausted thinking about doing it, but I'm also thinking I might task somebody to do it.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Yeah. And I think for you, it'd be, the bigger players, right? You're not going after quantity, you're going after quality. Right. And so that's what LinkedIn is good for as well.
Right. And I guess I'm actually having an aha moment in regard to Windowworks. Windowworks does a lot of projects with not only interior designers, but architects. Our outdoor division in particular is very suited to the connections with architects and property developers, because we do these insane retractable genius awnings that are structures that withstand wind and snow and rain, and they can have Bose speakers in them and lighting them. We just did huge project for the Wythe Hotel in Brooklyn and the Freehand Hotel in Manhattan, and these are projects that are six-figure, mid six-figure projects. And yes, those people that place those projects and specify those projects are on LinkedIn. There's no question.
Of course. Yes. The decision makers are on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, get ready, Windowworks team.
Sorry, I had another
That's it. Oh, well, Sarah, and the other thing I want to make sure that we talk about just a few minutes is your podcast. You have a podcast called Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. And I have to say, it's so funny because very often when I interview somebody that has a podcast, they say, oh, you should come on mine, but I really don't belong on yours. I'm thinking, she's not going to invite me to hers. There's nothing introverted about me.
Sorry, you don't pass the test.
That's it. Don't have the right credentials, Luann. Right. So, but I do, as I said at the top of the show, have come to learn how many of my friends listening are introverted. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and what they can hope to find if they come there to learn about business from you.
Right. So I started the podcast in 2016 and really wanted to serve the introverted entrepreneur audience. And so that's what it basically is. It's a conversation with other introverted entrepreneurs, mostly online entrepreneurs who, are telling their stories about being an introvert and running their business and talking about their superpowers and what's still challenging as introverts. And it's been one of the greatest things I've ever did because, as you know, these podcasts are just also great ways to build relationships with other people. Mm-hmm. So, I've been really enjoying that. But I should say that I'm actually transitioning the podcast into something different, and I'm calling it the gentle business revolution. So that's a whole other topic, but it has to somehow to do with introversion because it's the gentle business revolution, right? And so what that is basically questioning or disrupting the current marketing paradigm. And I do that by bringing more of the human connection into marketing. I think we kind of lost touch with what the internet was really created for, and that is to have more conversations and to have a more human approach. And it seems like we went back to the, mass media and corporate kind of outreach rather than creating these human connections the way we're doing right now. But it seems like in the entrepreneur world, there's this trend to go bigger and kind of using scarcity and fear in marketing. And I want to kind of turn it around and say, let's be gentle in our businesses. Let's, use love as a currency instead of fear, and you better buy this because otherwise your business is going to end, or these kind of techniques,
Very good. Yeah, I read this line on your website. I help my clients be gentle, authentic, and successful in their marketing and in business, and it hit me, and it hit me enough that I wrote it down, actually, because it is true. It is sometimes intimidating to think about having a more gentle nature and having a more introverted nature, and thinking, how can I get loud enough to compete with all the crazy pants people out there, right? But your point is, you don't have to. There's a way for you to do it, and you don't believe that you should change your innate nature in any way in order to do it. And not only do you not believe it, but you help teach people how to be true to themselves and who they are in their quiet, gentle way. And still be right. I like
That's
that.
Exactly it.
Yeah, I'll take care of all the crazy ones. You take all the quiet ones. We'll do good.
We'll change the world for a better place. Yeah.
No, I love it, Sarah. I have to say, I really, I'm going to give you, I was just going to call it a compliment, and that implies that it's better to be an extrovert. So stop in that little sentence right there, Luann. But I just want to acknowledge. This is what I want to do. I acknowledge that although you are an introvert, you're a very easy interview, and and it's true, and that has been a great challenge for me when I have come across people who are introverted. I'm not sitting in your person. We're not looking at each other. We're not in person. And I can't just overwhelm you like I do when I'm in person to get it out of you. But I thank you so much for coming here and for teaching us these tips, and for giving us hope that there is a way to do business, even if your nature is gentle. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Luann, for having me. And, being extroverted doesn't mean that you're not gentle. It's just that it's gentle inside, and on the outside, it's a bit more overwhelming for us introverts anyway. But this was fun. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. So, are you like me thinking, what's going on here? We're missing the boat on LinkedIn, right? I mean, imagine really sitting down now and setting up a strategy to make some headway on LinkedIn. All right. One point that Sarah had said to me when we were going back and forth by email and about her being on the show, she said, and I forgot to mention this during the episode, that the average LinkedIn user has a yearly income of $75K and above. Okay. And she made the point to me that designers who are looking for clients with some disposable income will definitely find them on LinkedIn. So I have to say, I truly believe it's worth some time and effort. Okay. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think recently when I was listening to Wingnut Social podcast with Darla and Nat, I think that I feel like I just heard Darla say, like, offhand, I think we have to start paying attention to LinkedIn. So, and all I can say is, if Darla is thinking it, the guru of all things social media and attracting clients to your interior design firm, then I got to say, this is two smart people now recommending this. Okay. And I also love that Sarah is a self-proclaimed introvert. All right. And I know that many of you shared with me that you too are an introvert. So to Sarah's point, I think there is so much more ability on LinkedIn to tell people who you are and what you do, all with the goal of getting them to your website. Okay. That's what we want to do. We want to make friends. We want to make contacts. We want to create relationships, but we want the interest to result in a visit to your website. Okay. And the thing about that is that she's right about that. On LinkedIn, you can, Instagram, you're scrolling, right? Aren't you scrolling now? I know many of you stop and read the post and so forth, but most people now have said to me, they scroll and they're glancing at the work, the pictures, but not really reading the content so much. And, Sarah is explaining that LinkedIn is a different user experience, that people there are sitting down and reading it like the morning newspaper. Okay. So I think that there is, I really do believe that there's tremendous value there. And I don't know how long it'll take us to get organized, to get up and doing it, but we're going to make some effort there, okay? Now, and when I say make some effort there, I'm actually thinking of it from the standpoint of Windowworks. So I'm thinking of it exactly the way Sarah is saying. The Windowworks is a visual company, just like interior design. And I know that it's a good place to meet those higher level project managers, property developers, and architects that can specify some of the projects and the products, that Windowworks offers. And so, of course, it stands to reason it's the same with you. Okay? Now, one thing we didn't mention, that Sarah has a gift for you. She has templates of the 6 LinkedIn invitation messages that she uses and that you can personalize to easily add the right connections to your network. So you want to go to bit.ly.com/Sarah's templates. And she spells Sarah with an H. So it's bit.ly.com/Sarah's templates. Okay? And of course, you can always get more information and tips on her over at her podcast, the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, which she explained she'll be rebranding soon to the Gentle Business Revolution. But for now, you can find it on iTunes as the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Okay? And I'll just add this. Speaking of iTunes, it's been a really, 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 really long time since I've asked you if you have been one of the many people that have reviewed my show on iTunes. And I just want to say, what do you think? If you've been listening each week and if you've been enjoying it and you haven't reviewed it, would you do that for me? I'd really appreciate it. We all live and die by our numbers, our stats, our reviews, everything else. And I'm just the same. So I'd be very, very, very grateful if you take a moment to leave a review for me. It's not only good and helps the show and all that, but I really love knowing what you find valuable about the show so that I can be sure to do more of that for you. Okay? So, alrighty. Love to know what you think about this show today. Please share it with me on Instagram or Facebook. Love to know if you take some action on it. Love to know if you go over and review and revise your profile, which as of this recording, I have not done yet, but intend to do. Okay. So I'd love to know if you're taking some movement, making a plan, doing something. Are you deciding to be excellent? I sure hope so. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of Windowworks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be. All of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.